following thoughts, opinions, stories, and expressions are meant for those who will appreciate them. If you don't, we hope you keep an open soul to encounter another here on 34 Questions. Peace. In 3, 2, 1. What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. I'm your host, 34, and tonight I have a very special guest. Chelsea Leigh Trescott is in the building. How are you doing tonight, Chelsea?
Just flown with it. I've got the candles going. I've got the, neon lights on. And I'm in the basement. So it's just a wonderful world down here.
For sure. I feel that. I want to thank you for stopping by and willing to go through this interview and share your story. So definitely appreciate that. And for all the folks out there, if it's your first time checking out the show, we do a few warm-up questions at the beginning just to set the tone. After that, we'll jump into a couple icebreakers. After the icebreakers, we'll turn to the Wheel of Fate, where we'll spin the wheel, and whichever number it lands on, that's where the conversation will kind of flow. And then after all that, we'll finish out with some closeout questions. Sound good to you, Chelsea?
Oh my God, what am I in for? Let's do it.
Let's find out. So my very first question for you is, how have you been? You've been doing well. You've been doing great. How you been lately?
I love that question, and I love answering that question as honestly as possible. Though I do feel like I'm someone that's like in both places at times. Sometimes like I'm in such a high, and I've been feeling that, such a rush. But recently, today especially, a bit of anxiety. I'm making a trip back out to LA. I booked the flight today, and I haven't been there in 10 years. And it was a very dark time for me out there. So it's kind of just hitting me about what I might discover about myself and just feeling the anxiety, but I guess also like the eagerness about the day is here. And I finally, I think, feel brave enough to go back and see myself in that situation. For sure.
And if you don't mind me asking, where are you located now? If,
I'm in New York City, the love of my life.
For sure. Still haven't been yet.
What?
I know. I am a big fan of like hip hop. And, in the 90s, it was all about New York hip hop. So I still have yet to experience the environment that has always been in the music that I loved. But yeah.
And I live next to Webster Hall, which is like an infamous club. So you got to come and experience it. I'll show you a good time.
One day for sure. So, and then you said coming back to LA is making you feel kind of anxious. Why 10 years? Why'd you wait 10 years to come back?
It's just crazy how time flies. They say as you get older, time just escapes you. And I also think that, I didn't feel called to it. Maybe I wrote it off as being such a dark time in my life. But I think I also maybe inside was waiting to go back and to test myself. Like it needed to be, I don't know. I feel like I needed to be brave enough to do it. And there's a bit of incentive, I'll tell you that, kind of falling back into a little bit of the long distance thing. So that's one element. And also I just feel called for it. I feel so pulled and I'm really trying to listen to that voice, that intuition. Something came over me when I was in this really dark place in March. And I've been wanting to go back to LA. I've been talking about it for years, just haven't done it. And I felt really, really pulled. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just to see myself back out there. Or maybe it's something that I can't even discover for myself yet until I get there. I just think it's really important to listen and see where it takes you.
For sure. I can definitely relate to that. My second question for you in the warm-up is, what would you like the audience to know about you?
That even though I'm a breakup coach and I have a podcast on heartbreak, that love is so important to me, as I'm sure it is for most people. I just think that sometimes there's this impression I think that people have that I might be quick to ice people out or that it's easy for me to say goodbye. And it's not. I think I've always been fearful of that, and I've become only more sensitive around that topic. So That and just, one thing I will say is that I really isolated myself out of kind of nowhere. I was never that person. I was a very social person growing up. And in my 20s, again, a dark period of time, went through some disorders, and also in LA, became a complete shut-in. So I experienced a time where I did not know how to speak. When I moved back to New York City, I was shaking around people. I used to have to sit on my hands because I'd be shaking so much, and I would bolt out of the experience. And I just remember thinking like, wow, I've got to learn how to walk out and introduce myself again. So it's been a long journey. And I would just say, like, we're having a conversation now, and conversations have saved my life and saved my spirit, but it wasn't always this way. And I remember being in LA and thinking, wow, the days of me smiling are over. The days of me laughing are gone. And I never thought I could say something like that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just a way in the new normal, and it wasn't. And I remember having this revelation even then when I was getting ready to leave. And I was wailing. And I remember like this insight of, it's not always going to be a visceral experience. So I would say for anyone that's listening, it's like, try to believe in that. Try to lean into what the experience is so you can move through it, so you can come out of it. Resistance is what keeps us stuck. And I resisted for a long time. And always, ask people how they are, like you did in the beginning. I never got that enough. So, and yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. Why do you think, I feel like the question is asked a lot, but I don't know if it's always answered truthfully or honestly. And in your experience, would you say how much percentage of people are more honest with that question than, yeah?
I mean, very few. It's not even that it's not honest, though it isn't, but it's not even a question. People don't even register it as a question. They don't. It's just like, on to the next. It's like the smallest of small talk. And I think that people don't want to burden someone with, how are you? Oh, I couldn't possibly tell someone. And I can't get over how often I hear people say, well, or, they don't. And I'm like, what's the context? I try to really be like, if I'm doing better, I try to say why it is like better now because of, And so it gives like us a window into someone's soul. And I don't think that people realize that that's what we want. And that's what we're asking for. We're giving people allowance to go there. And people really in their head think people don't want to know. People just ask to ask because they feel like they have to. And it's not really like a leading question anywhere.
Mm-hmm. No, I got you. It makes me think. Now I kind of want to challenge myself when I ask people, how are you? They tell me, oh, I'm good. And then I want to say like, no, really. Or and I also don't want to assume that that, no, it looks like you're going through something. So tell me some more. Yeah, I don't know how I want to approach it. I still got to flesh out that.
Good. Like if someone said good, like, does that mean you're better than yesterday? Something like that. It's like, what has been good about today? And like, try to get people to become specific, to share. Like, that's really the thing. We've forgotten how to share. We've forgotten how to tell someone, how to reveal ourselves and our days and our mood and where we're really at. I think we do a lot to hide where we are.
I feel that.
And sometimes, people don't even ask how you are because, they think they already know. They think they already know from what they see, right? So I think a good question sometimes too is, how are you really? How are you really?
Got you. I got you. Yeah, I when I reflect on it, I think the times I don't say how are you or how have you been is when I think that I'm probably in a rush, like I'm passing through and I see somebody, it's just like, hey, and then keep on moving. But yeah, I always think it's a loaded question because I know for me, I'm gonna want to pry a little bit more, and I know it's gonna take more time. And if I don't have time, then I don't want to, put it in like
something.
Yeah. They're starting to explain something. I'm like, oh, that's crazy, and then I have to like keep moving on. But yeah. And you said you were a breakup coach. Is that what it sounds like it is. Like, there's relationship coaches, so a breakup coach kind of is something different.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people assume that I am coaching people on how to break up. And initially that was the desire. I thought that that's where the need would be, is to help people leave, help people let go and know when it's time, how to save themselves or save the relationship. But for the most part, it's been people after the relationship. So the healing of it and the understanding and the valuing still of the relationship, and kind of looking at who were they in the beginning, what were they looking for actually back then, and who are they now, and what could this be an opening to, and then how to go back into dating intentionally. I think that apps have really, especially apps, have allowed us just to not heal, hurt people. And so that's kind of what ends up happening. And so we end up reacting so much to the last person or how it ended, rather than really responding to the next calling within ourselves. And so I try to help people at a time when they don't want to pause, or when, I think sometimes with friends and stuff, we feel like we can't keep going on about it, or that other people have too much invested. And so I'm like this neutral third party, also, working with men. They get to try on different conversations that they weren't really brave enough or knew how to navigate before. So they experience that with me, and then get to go do that. And so I've enjoyed actually helping people go from breaking up to, dating up. And that's been really an amazing journey, because you see people start to get closer to what they've said that they're after, and start seeing them change the behavior, and not just look backwards, I suppose. Though I love looking back.
That's a tough one. I don't know. Maybe I haven't gone far enough to be happy to look back at this point. But I think I'll get there someday. One more question on the topic. As a breakup coach, what is, or just ask yourself, how would you define love? Like, what is love?
Oh man. I know. I've always said, here's what I usually say, actually. Love is a series of conversations. Love to me is a series of conversations. And the depth of your love is dependent on the depth of your conversations, and how much you're willing to share and show. And also, not just reveal, but inquire about someone. But also love is, a form of tenderness around people's frustrations within themselves. It's kind of the softness from the edges of the world. And I hope that love is not conditional. I find a lot of the times, after breakups, that you realize that it was. And to me, love has always been more timeless and permanent than I think I've experienced or heard about. To me, love isn't over just because I'm no longer with someone. And also love isn't, and it's all taken a while to practice this and to understand this, but love is not reserved for one person. And listen, I'm interested in finding someone that I'm going to love in a special way that's been different than the rest. But one of the big breakthroughs of my life was to not reserve love for someone and think that only one person inspires it out of you, but to be love with people all the time, to lead with love, and therefore by that example. So it's been really cool for me. Cool is an understatement, but I've been single longer than I've ever been. But I've had more love in my life, honest love, like more honest love. And I'm out of practice with loving a partner, sure. So singular, but the expression and the exuberance of love and the leaning in toward others and the acceptance and the acknowledgement and seeing someone, I've gotten so fluent at that, I would say. So even though I've been without love, I've been in love throughout my days more than I ever have.
Damn, Coach, you definitely you put out some fire there. Some knowledge, dropping bombs on us. I would love to dig more into it, but we gotta move on to the next warm-up question, which is if I were to do something in your honor, a way to express the energy you possess, what could I do?
One is be receptive, but one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes is, people will forget what you did, they'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. So maybe if it was just knowing, how I made you feel, or just, an honest reaction, I feel like that would be so good for me.
Got you. I got you. Now we know.
Now we know.
And my last question for you in the warm-up is, oh man, I messed up. Forgot to change the little words, but last question for you in the warm-up is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you know yourself?
I'm just going to go for 7. That's always been a good number. I don't want to get too, I think before in my life, I would have been like, oh yeah, I know myself. But after talking to so many people, and I will say talking to so many men recently, is that I'm like, damn, I've been missing out on some therapy.
What do you mean?
I'm just really impressed. I'm impressed by my guests, how they never know what I'm going to ask them and how much they're willing to give. And they're not coaches, and then like even in dating and seeing how many people have spent time in therapy, and that's how they've come into that wisdom. That's how they've been challenged. What I love about what you're doing is that with being a coach and a host and just who I am in the world, I feel like I'm always asking the questions, and they're never asked of me. And that's been such an isolating experience, and something that I feel like I'm really missing out on. Like to really, it's one thing to think about yourself, it's another to say it. It feels totally different. So I think I know myself, but I haven't been writing in a long time. That always helped me understand and go deeper than I could know to connect with myself. And there's just been so many years now of being interested in others and not having that same opportunity, or maybe seeking it out enough, investing in it enough, where I have to figure out, do I really, really know myself like I think? And what are my blind spots? Like, someone show me the blind spots,
If you don't mind me asking, what's one of the blind spots you recently became aware of?
Oh man. One blind spot, someone I was dating said, I don't think you're vulnerable. And it was crazy, because I was like, oh my God, I live in vulnerability every day, I feel like. But the perception, or maybe even in terms of dating, that, and I've gotten that like I'm up all the time, I'm animated, I'm on. And so I think the blind spot has been that, and I've seen it now, I've actually seen it, that I'm struggling to show my interest, because I'm not used to having romantic interest in someone. And I'm struggling to show that vulnerability. I'm struggling. And I also, this blind spot of, my whole thing is like fear less, love greater, fear less. And I think I've begun to take in a lot of the fear that I've been hearing about, a lot of the anxiety in ways that I never had toward dating, toward love. And so the blind spot is, maybe I thought I was a lot more vulnerable than I am.
I got you. Thank you for sharing. And like, just you going through it, it made me think of the kind of blind spots I might have. And one that I'm not entirely sure of. So I'm an overthinker. So even when what I'm about to say, I'm still not like completely set on it. It's just something I noticed about myself. I like to think of myself as a pretty unassuming person. Trying to give people a lot of, I don't know what the right word for it is, but when in first impressions, I don't take it as seriously as most people. Like they say first impressions matter, but for me, I'm the kind of person that like I always keep that in mind. So I'm always like, okay, this might not be the person that they really are until I meet them again. And even though that sounds good, I think it also makes me a little judgmental, which I don't think is yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's something that I recently thought of, and I'm like, oh damn, I'm becoming what I said I wouldn't be. But yeah,
right. Isn't the great irony of all of our lives? Well, one thing that surprises me is like when you say that you're not assuming, you're unassuming. My immediate thought to that was like, oh wow, he's not judgmental. You know, the first impression, there's so much pressure around that. You know, we think it's like a make or break, and you know, maybe go out of our way to put on this mask, as people will say. They talk about, you know, showing up as a representative or something. But it seems like when I hear you say that, I'm like, oh, he doesn't place as much like importance or value. It's not a make or break. And so he's not going to judge the first impression. He's going to give someone a second chance. He's going to stick around. So that was what I took from what you said.
Okay, for sure. And see that, I think that's the overthinking side of me. It's like on the surface, it's fine, but you know, for me, it's like, well, why? And you know, I guess how can it be seen from other people? You know, I'm a people pleaser. I don't know if it's a natural thing, but I grew up that way. And I'm trying to work on like, I think there's this, I work at a high school, and sometimes kids can be a little, you know, knucklehead. And
sometimes
at that age, but the phrase that came up recently was be a warm demander, and think
what is it?
a warm demander. So like, yeah, so I was like, I think I got the warm part down. Like I'm easily approachable. You know, people come to me and easy to chop it up. I'm really bad at demanding though. I'm really bad at like I like to lead by example instead of like try to tell the kid to do something. And
totally.
And but
totally.
Like, but yeah, I also see that some kids need direction. You know, like it's not when you tell them, it's not you doing it with them, but they just want to know what the end goal is and how to get there. And they might, if they're interested, just do the thing. I run the after school program, so this is where my mind's at as far as motivating kids to do something after school. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear you say that, I think about dating, because this has been the struggle, is like I'm trying to lead by example. So one thing that has come up is like I self-disclose really easily. And so I'm sharing my life, which I think is a form of vulnerability. I'm not hiding myself. And I've wanted the same thing in return, because I'm struggling to show the interest by asking the questions like I think I do so naturally with everyone else. And so I think that like, what happens with lead by example is like someone from the outside, they can be like, look at them, look at what they're capable of. I'm not like that. So how do you help someone? Like you become the muse, you become so other than them, so separate in a way, because it's like, wow, look at them doing it so easily. And so people don't know how to emulate that. So yeah, it's like, you know, they talk about breadcrumbing in relationships in the negative way. It's almost like, how can you just tease someone just a little bit to being the guide in that sense?
I got you. Yeah. That's I got you. Baby steps. I'm thinking, and I rush into things all the time. Like I'm always expecting things to be grand right away. So
me too.
Yeah.
But also like maybe that's the idea too, is like show people, especially the students, like the vision. What's behind the idea of even trying to guide them anywhere? You know, where are we kind of trying to get to, or what could come from something? You know, and I think that, you know, stating the intention that you have with people is powerful in itself.
I mean, sometimes I do, you know, try to be vulnerable and be self-disclosing, you know, be open. And I always have the thought like, oh shoot, did I just share too much? Or are they even really comprehending what I'm trying to say right now? Especially with students, because, you know, I think an example was like a student was telling me, oh, my parents aren't going to let me cheerlead because I have bad grades. And I'm like, oh damn. And I, try to explain what it must be like to be a parent, and they probably are thinking what's best for you, and like, because I don't know them, and I don't want to like put a divide between the student and their parents, right? I'm trying to get the student to see their view, and yeah. So after doing that, I was like, I wonder if they're like let this guy just shut up, like I'm going through it right now.
You know why? Is that because I think people would be like, oh God, another adult siding with the adult. Whereas like, and I'm just thinking of this as you say it, is that I think that something that could be guiding is like, let's say worst case scenario that happens, or, like, how could you approach this? How could you approach this in a different way that your parents might start to understand you?
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good. No,
like, let's try this out. I'm the parent, go. Maybe something like that. Right? Because I hear you, like you're trying to show someone and validate the other side. When kids, I think, are seeking validation so badly, they want to be seen when they, like, from the authority.
No, for sure. I definitely made sure to validate in a way of saying, wow, that's pretty harsh, or, I think what I was trying to describe to them afterwards, like, whatever standards your parents put on you, it's not because of you, it's because of them. I was trying to get them to understand, like, maybe their parents, had those high expectations and wanted them to be a certain way, and that's the only way they know how to parent, because that's what they received.
Right, modeling.
Yeah. I mean, they're habitual, it's cultural sometimes too. But yeah, so thank you for your feedback on that, because now I have another way.
Yeah, and kudos for you for, developing the youth. I mean,
I definitely love it. I try to convince more people to do it, but the money's not there.
Money is not going to entice them, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I'm trying to fill my life serving people. So in the day I could serve kids, and then at night I serve everybody else. But yeah, let's move on to the icebreakers. And before we do that, I want to remind the folks out there that if you are enjoying the content, please like if you might, share if you care, subscribe for a vibe you didn't know was there.
Oh, kids. Chills.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on to the icebreakers. This first one is going to be a kind of like a point of view. I'm going to give you a statement. You let me know where you stand on it.
Yeah. And I can talk about it.
Absolutely. I'm pretty much going to ask you why. But this one is, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
I use this everywhere. I use this and tell everyone that this is my guide in life. And I think that it's just the better way. I don't know. I'm not someone. It's almost always going to be no if you ask for permission. But if you do something and then describe the intention later, then I think that there's a way around it. I've learned that everything, I guess, maybe everything is the way you talk about it, the way you approach it after. So for me, if I ask, it's going to be a no. If I do it, I can probably get away with it, and I do it in my way. And if I don't, then I'm not afraid to own it, to learn from it, to acknowledge it, but also maybe if I had to, share where I was coming from. So to me, I'm definitely just trying to do it my way. So asking for permission, not okay.
I got you. That was a tough one for me, honestly. I think I overanalyze it, get anxious, so I can't get to that point of just like going through with it and thinking about asking for forgiveness afterwards. But yeah, I definitely can see how life can be more exciting. Yeah,
and also, like, I mean, listen, if your intentions are good, like, what is there really to forgive?
I see.
Like, if we're talking about cheating, I mean, maybe that's something different. But
I think that's something different.
Yeah, people just like are always like trying to ask, just like to take direction from someone else. Like, direct yourself. And if it gets you in trouble, own it and ask for forgiveness. Like, don't have too much pride to ask for forgiveness and say that, okay, yeah, I was wrong. I'll do it differently next time.
Yeah, I got you. That's definitely a way I haven't thought about it, as far as having pride and, being willing to admit I was wrong, or, just say sorry.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
yeah, you're
yeah, you're right. I was being bold. I was just trying to do it my way again. I mean, because like I'm on set a lot, so there's like so many people that just are constantly in this permission mode, and like they're never moving ahead. They're never standing out. So for me, I mean, I just do and show up in the way that I feel is good. So like, for example, if like, this makes sense anyway, there's like non-union and union, and union has a lot more perks. Well, I'm not union yet, but usually on set, I'm treated like, I'm featured a lot. So I just kind of do the union thing. And a lot of people won't do that, but it's like, then you're never moving into anything. Then you're always just kind of behind. So I try to step into where I want to be in my life so I can get there, so I can become that in order to believe in it and feel it. And I find that overall, I'm not having to ask for forgiveness. Like, there's really no trouble. That's the thing. Like, that's why I follow this, is because I don't ask for permission. And I'm also never having to ask for forgiveness, because I'm just coming from a good place.
No, I got you. And honestly, I think anytime anyone's really apologized to me, it's always been like, oh, it's fine. Like, I never really trip off it. So you're right. I mean, if you're gonna say sorry, I've never been in a situation where it's just like straight anger and like it's unforgiven or it's unforgivable. So yeah, until I get to that point, I feel like you have something there where even if you ask for forgiveness, people are more likely to just be like, well, it's over now. Like, there's nothing that's going to change at this point. So just don't do it again kind of attitude. But yeah.
And you win some, you lose some. You win some and you lose some. And then sometimes you have to look at yourself and be like, God, why didn't I ask for permission? And what was that about? And yeah, this might change things going forward. But that could be the thing that gets you to do things differently in the future. I mean, I can think of examples, but I won't steal all the hours from you.
No worries. We could always do a part 2 if you're down for it in the future.
Always.
So we're gonna move on to the second icebreaker, which is a word association game. You're gonna have 34 seconds to do as many words as you can. Right now, the record is 12. No pressure though. Just go through it the way you would like.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready, and we'll begin.
As ready as I'm gonna be. Born ready. Let's go.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Regret.
Not much.
Fear.
Fearless.
Age.
It's okay.
Culture.
Wisdom. Culture. Identity.
Knowledge.
Truth. Direction.
Relax.
How?
So you got about 7 there, I believe.
Oh my God. I told you 7 was my number. You asked how much do I know about myself. I said 7. Yeah, there we go.
Maybe we'll reach another 7, so you'll get those 777s by the end of the episode. Yeah. Did you say how for relax?
Yeah.
Why how?
I was just in Spain. I was in Barcelona, and that was a place that it really hit me like, whoa, this is relaxed. And also like those Cali vibes, I've been thinking about that. And I'm like, New York doesn't relax me, and I'm never looking for it. I'm never seeking relaxation. And so I think that I think maybe this would fall under self-care, learning how to relax. And I think that so much guilt in my life, or really shame for relaxing has gotten in my way, has really tripped me up. So I never taught myself. I feel like it was something I should never know, because I should be productive and ambitious and on all the time, not relaxed. Relaxing is, what a privilege. What a privilege that you're relaxed about something. And now listen, I think that if someone were to, take a look at my life, they'd be like, she looks pretty relaxed. She's relaxing. So, I do it, but I think that kind of relaxing in terms of, the noise in my head, and should I be doing this? Should I be doing things differently? Where should I really be? What should I think that is hard to quiet for me. And I like the rush of something. I like the rush, kind of an extremist. So relaxing is, it's almost like something wrong. I remember these moments when I would have with friends where it was more quiet, or I just wasn't feeling on. In a way, for them, it was probably relaxing. Oh my gosh, you don't have to be so engaged all the time. But for me, it was oh my God, where's the engagement? Oh my God, where's the depth? So relaxing is just, I felt most of the time too guilty, ashamed, or privileged to allow myself to do it, when I have every opportunity, for the most part, to be doing it.
I got you. I don't know if you saw me kind of smirk as you were explaining, but I am a maximum relaxer.
Are you?
Yeah,
relaxing to relax. What does that look like, though? What is
man. Well, the shameful side of me would probably say it looks like a lot of time wasted. But there's that other side of it where people say you can't really have regrets because you're doing exactly what makes you happy in the moment. So yeah, I think relaxing to me. So I studied recreation and leisure studies in college. Probably the easiest. I don't want to disparage, or downplay anybody else who has the same degree. But it was the easiest way out of college at the time. So that's why I got into that course.
Easiest way out or the easiest way through?
Through. Easiest way through. And two very different things. One of our thesis papers at the end was I wrote about what does recreation mean. So when it comes to relaxing, I think of recreation. And the key thing in recreation is moments to recreate yourself, or do something different, or build a new skill set, a hobby, whatever it is that makes you feel like you're adding more to your life. I think comes with relaxation. That's just me though. I don't know.
I think that's productive. That's a productive human being going out and finding hobbies to take up. That's so interesting. I love that angle.
It is one way to think of it, and it could just be me justifying why I've been relaxing for so long.
How dare you? How dare you justify anything that makes you feel good?
But yeah, so that's just my thoughts on it. But thank you for participating in our games, and we'll be heading back to the main stage. Here we are, and I'm gonna pull up the Wheel of Fate, give it a spin, and at any point, if there's a question that's too personal or something you don't want to talk about, feel free to pass. No pressure. Ooh, you are there at the line of 9 and 10. Is there a number that you prefer?
I'm kind of curious, what the 9 would be for some reason.
This one is pretty heavy.
Give me the weight. Throw the weight on my shoulders now.
I gotcha. What makes you feel alone?
What makes me feel alone?
Yeah.
I mean, to think that I started kind of the conversation with all that isolation that I experienced, and going back to LA where I was so alone. Alone is disconnected. It's without conversation. It's also seen in relationships recently where I really did feel like it was such an isolating thing to only have the interest being going like one way. And that just made me feel really alone. Like someone didn't want to know my backstory. This is why like you were so just, I was like, oh my God, what a gift to give myself, or you're giving me for my 35th birthday, because at 34, I just experienced that alone feeling with someone that I think we were both kind of mesmerized by each other. But the fact that there wasn't the depth of connection or that contact that seems fixed, or someone really like wanting to hear you. That's what makes me feel alone. And then, I think that misunderstanding me makes me feel alone. So when people see me in the wrong light, or see me in a light, like that I wish could change. Like there's so many examples of, being alone, but also just like around so many people. And I've heard a lot in my life, people say this, and I felt it, that people would see me and they would have this perception of me. And therefore, like, they wouldn't get close to me. And that was so lonely, because all I needed was people. I needed people to like not look at me and think I'm not going to go near that, or she's all good, she has another life, or whatever, she's confident, she looks confident, she should be confident. But I wish that people would approach me. And so alone was, for a long time, being in a period of my life where I was unapproachable. I was unapproachable as a person. And my whole thing now was like, not relying on other people to approach me. Maybe people like will still think I'm unapproachable. It's to show them that I am approachable, and it's to approach them. So I insert myself into my days, into people's lives. I say something. I never hoard a compliment now. And those actions of extending myself and acknowledging others has kept me from feeling alone. Now, if I was still doing what I used to do, where, I was walking through the city and just noticing other people and being not bold enough or daring enough to, again, like to insert myself, to say something, and to let it be a spontaneous short burst of interaction and have that be enough, I would still be feeling alone. And it's just wild. What is one of the quotes, like, I don't know, but like basically like you return and you see how different it is. And basically, it's just that you're different. And it's amazing how I've been able to track these things in my life. In LA, I'm definitely going to go back to a place where I was my most alone. But New York was the same way. New York was the dream for me, and it's the love of my life now. But I was alone in New York City. I mean, when I moved to New York, I was 82 pounds. I died to be here. Like, I almost died to be here. And when I got here, people would taunt me. The things they would say on the street to me was just horrible. And people couldn't help themselves. Kids would chase after me. People wouldn't seat me at restaurants. So I hid in my apartment. And I was so alone at that time. And I was feared. And so whether it was that people thought I was, a model or something, and that whole thing, that whole appearance, and so they wouldn't approach me because they thought I already had it all, or I had my own life, when that wasn't true, or that I looked like death and they wouldn't approach me. Both situations, when I was too high for people or too low for people, I was alone. And the thing is, I could always be battling that, possibly. So what do I do about that? I have to be the one that approaches. And I have to look at others as they're alone, and I don't want them to be. So I'm going to do something about that.
Damn. Well, thank you for sharing that story. I'm just thinking about the times where I didn't approach someone, right? There was this one moment also in college where I saw a student, I didn't know who they were, a stranger, crying in the hallway, like, you know, hands down. And there was a part of me that was just pulling, like, I should say something, I should have said, you know, but I didn't. I remember, and that, for me to remember that moment, I'm sure it still means something to me deep down. But because I like turned the corner, and then when I was like, oh, let me maybe check on them, they were gone, and I was like, oh shit, like I missed my chance to impact a life, you know. But yeah, being alone, I think I had this question asked to me recently too, and I said, in the same vein, I think being misunderstood makes me feel alone. Or what would make me feel accepted would be to never have to explain myself, which is, I don't think, realistic. But, you know, one of my goals in life is to just, you know, exert this energy where when I meet new people, or new people meet me, that they don't think it's fake. Because I think that that also comes up a lot as well. Yeah, so that's something I'm aware of that.
Yeah, I've heard that. Like, I remember people, there's so much to say about it, but one example in particular was that being on set, you know, and I remember someone saying to me, they said, you know, that I'm so friendly and so interested in people, and this person in particular, and they're like, you know, I didn't know if it was fake. I thought it was fake. And then I saw you on another set, and you were the same way. And then I saw you with other people, and you were exactly the same way. So for me, it's like, I remember I was so influenced by The Truman Show when I was a young kid. And to me, you know, I say it could sound narcissistic, but it was this idea that, you know, have integrity, that anyone can be watching. And I want to be consistent. Yes, I want to, again, I said I want to love someone in a special way. But overall, I don't want to be someone that only shares this with this person, I'm not a chameleon. So yeah, I really,
that's a superpower, you know. I think more, I definitely respect people more when I can see that. Like, I've only seen you here on the show, but if I were to be that person to see on different sets and kind of be like, that's the energy you always bring, definitely gains my respect instantly. I know for me, like, I do some code switching. I mean, I work with kids. I'm not going to act the same way I do with kids that I do with my coworkers when no kids are around. So I do a fair amount of code switching, but I also try to make sure, like I said, the energy is the same. It's like maybe the words are different. Maybe, you know, I have to be more professional.
I was going to say that you're a pro, you're a professional. You know, I give that out every chance I can. But you're right. I think it's like the style. You probably bring you still have a signature style to you.
I think so. I mean, that's something I definitely have been more made aware of, and also I'm trying to embrace more. But yeah, I love it. I love having that style in any phase of my life, and, you know, just being the person I feel like I am. And you know, it's weird because I guess I'm at that point where, like, am I being the person? I was writing, like, I'm trying to write a script, and then it was about a person like meeting themselves in a different way. And they were like, who are you? I was like, oh, I'm the person who you think you are, or want to be, or something like that. And like, what does that make me? And so, yeah, sorry, that was a tangent that's just separate from
apologize. Don't apologize.
Yeah.
What a script. What a script.
It's just
Those are the movies we should be watching.
You know, I've been inspired by a lot of you know, media that's been out there recently that just seems to, I think it's called, you know, dark comedy or dark humor, but just the ones that just really feel like a reflection on society. And like, I know for me, it's touched me in different ways as well. So it's like, damn, I think, you know, there's a story in there somewhere inside that I can get out there. All right, well, we made it to the final portion of the podcast, the closeout questions. But before we do that, there's one exercise I would like you to participate in, which is the 34th mantra. I want you to fill in a blank, which is I am, I can, I will. I am blank, I can blank, I will blank. Take a thought and take a couple minutes to think about it. Let me know when you're ready, so I'll get you on over to the other screen.
Wait, what is it? I am,
I will.
Oh God. Okay.
Take your time. Think about it. Let it simmer a little bit.
Oh my God. I don't even know. I don't even know. I am, I can, and I will. And it's supposed to be one word?
Oh no, it could be 3 different words for each.
No, but like one word, I am this.
Yeah. One. No, it could be a phrase. You know, some people say, I'm going to, I will, you know, so.
God, I want to like write it down, but this is like live. I don't know. I should have thought of this.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Really?
Yeah.
I just want to see it down. I am. I'm just gonna say this one. I believe in these like intentions for your years, like for your birthdays, and I have a new one. Should I go?
I got you, and I'll let you know when to go. This is you leaving yourself this message, so go for it whenever you're ready.
I am alive. This sounds like the first I am alive. I can go for it, and I will prove my past self wrong.
I gotcha. Now you have this little reminder for yourself, you know, if you ever want to look back at it, who you are, what you're gonna do, what you're capable of. But yeah, thank you for participating. And I don't know if that was, you know, a little nerve-wracking, but thank you for going through with it.
No, back to like, do you know yourself? And I'm like, oh God, I don't know. I am, I can, I will. Like, what? And it's good. It's like really good to, again, also like a moment at time, you know, to see what you say, but also just to, again, like the opportunity to try to define and therefore realize yourself. And sometimes I think, you know, the first answer isn't maybe the answer, but it's a starting point in. I love them. I love the questions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I need you to do, you know, just you describing what the show is. I feel like you're putting a whole another view and take on it that I haven't been able to find the words for. So yeah, we'll talk about that one later. But let's move on to the closeout questions, which is this next one is going to be from my previous guest. So I want to shout out Nick. Shout out to Nick Horn. So his question for you is, if you could live in any era, which one would it be and why?
Oh God, like the worst question for me because I know nothing. I know nothing.
What feels right? What feels right?
I don't know why I want to go in like the direction of like the 20s. Something like, I do like the glamour, and I think there's like maybe a little bit of element of femme fatale, and there was women seemed strong and alluring, and I don't know if I'm guessing the right genre when I'm thinking of these films. I think that there was a certain elegance and power that they had, and everyone was always dressed up. We never do that anymore. It always seemed like they were always overdressed. Now, I don't remember what was really going on at the time, so I'm purely thinking about what a party would look like. Okay.
No, I got you. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that dress down all the time. So I can't imagine what would I be wearing in those times. Whatever's comfortable is my go-to. But for sure, so the 1920s, if it ever happens, you know, I'll definitely come visit, because I do want to go to every era and kind of see what it was like out there. But the Roaring 20s, there's a reason right?
Ah, that's right, the roaring. Okay, so I knew what I was saying. Yeah, let
Yeah.
it roar, let it rip, let it roar, and again, like going back to like I am alive. For I don't know what there was something behind the roaring. There's a sense of like people must be feeling alive, and I think that it's just has taken a while for me to get back to that. And I see, like, especially after the pandemic or through the pandemic, what it really was to be someone that hadn't been dulled by um, life, and hadn't become so withdrawn and fearful and mad at the world because life had been taken from them, like years and time. How do you still feel alive in the midst of chaos, in the midst of the unknown, in the midst of fear? So to me, I think it's almost like a rebellious act. I remember, like, during the pandemic for me, especially early on, like, I acted with rebellion. And through that, I really began to integrate a lot of what I had been learning about myself or seen in different aspects. And I also just took myself and I advanced myself to the next stage that I knew I had been needing to go. So sometimes, like, I really think that there's so much to honor, and honoring the point of your own rebellion when you need it.
Gotcha. My second to last question for you is, what would you like to ask the next guest on 34 Questions?
Gosh, what would I like to ask the next guest? Well, can I ask them a question that I love to ask my guests?
Absolutely. I'm just a messenger, but I will definitely deliver whatever question you have for them.
Yeah, let's see what they say about this. What does it mean to you to break upward?
What does it mean to you to break upward?
Upward. Yeah, the direction.
Interesting. So I tried to answer this last question as well. I think for me, it gives me the idea of like upgrading, whatever that means, even though I would not really use that term for in my personal life, because I do think every relationship would be a little different, will bring different value and different lessons and different love as well. So breaking upward, if I was going to take that upgrade word away, would be maybe, I guess, continuing to like move forward with life, because I feel like a lot of people who do go through breakups end up either staying where they are for a little while longer, just because it's scary to move on, or scary to do something different, something new, meet new people. Yeah, I think maybe breaking upward for me is being able to just continue going forward. And if that's what you're doing, Coach, more power to you.
Love that.
And my last question for you, the question that ties everything together, 100, 200, 300 years from now, your descendants are watching this video. What would you like to tell them?
Oh my God. I don't know why that makes me emotional. It actually does. I've always just wanted for people to come alive faster than I was able to. I feel like I wasted a lot of years. Like, you talked about overthinking, or just like so self-conscious. And, I hope that, my life is an example about ultimately coming alive and accepting the times when I wasn't. And I hope it motivates people to, come into their life faster. I think to know, though, that I was always like serious about why I was here. I've always, since I was a really, really young kid, been like, I remember this voice coming to me about that I was just passing through, and that my job here was to leave a record of what that sounded like, what that felt like. And I've always just been trying to have that impact and encourage in others. And I'm trying, and I hope I do more. But I guess I hope that people that are listening, descendants, as you call them, would know that, trying was the journey ultimately. And I think that it's not about the next stage. And that's something that I'm really learning, that there has been so much joy actually, at the times and in the years when I don't have any of the things that I thought I needed to have joy. And I mean that. I really, really mean that. I don't have the things that most people rely on for a sense of security and joy. And yet I feel more alive than I ever have. And I felt responsible for sparking joy, but also just, coming into it in my life.
Gotcha. And now they hear you. I hear you. It's continue to spark that joy. I think you're in your work that you do. You are. I don't know too many people who go to a breakup coach or breakthrough therapy. So I can only think of what valuable lessons everyone that go through you are learning, and just different perspectives, because I feel like you shared a perspective today that has given me a lot of different views on my questions and even my statements, which is the selfish side of this podcast is when I get to broaden my horizons a little more. So I want to thank you again, Chelsea, for coming by. And I want to thank all the folks out there. If you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I want to thank you for your time as well. Please remember to reach out, reach forward. As always, much love. And we'll catch you guys next time on 34 Questions. Peace. And it fades out from there. And I did realize, though, that I forgot to ask you to do your plugs for your business and all that good stuff. If you'd like to, feel free to do it right now, and then I will work the magic in post-production and slip it in there. But yeah, would you like to give any shout outs or talk about your business?
I mean, my podcast, also The Love of My Life, is on all the streaming platforms. Thank You Heartbreak. Then my website, breakupward, breakupward.com. It's been going through a facelift, so I don't know if it will be back up by the time this goes out, but you can email me, Chelsea, CHELSEA, @breakupward.com. And Instagram is Thank You Heartbreak.
Gotcha.